Welcome, this is Carrie Schell from On Point Quilter. Many of my quilty friends know that I'm a huge fan of oversized piecing trim down techniques, and as a result I'm a huge fan of rulers that help make that successful. I have designed this quilt and this block around the Rapid Fire LeMoyne Star ruler and the Starburst Technique Sheet, and both of those are from Studio 180 Design. Okay, I've opened Electric Quilt and I'm going to start a new project. So I'm going to click on the new project icon and I am going to label this Starburst, and I'm going to select OK. And I'm going to select View Project Sketchbook. And on the Fabrics tab, I'm going to select Clear and select OK and Close. And I'm going to search fabric swatches because I decided that I wanted to use the latest Fabric of the Month collection, which is the Benartex Fandango collection by Krista Watson. And I think this is a fun collection to work with. So I'm going to select all fabrics and add to Sketchbook and close. Now I'm going to go to the block work table and I am going to design the Starburst Block, which is a variation on a LeMoyne Star. So I'm going to select New Block, Pieced, PolyDraw. And the reason I'm going to do that is there is a grid within PolyDraw for an 8-pointed star, and the Starburst is really a variation on that. So if you're in the PolyDraw tab, you're going to want to select the type 8-pointed star. I don't care at all about the block width and height, the graph paper. I do like to turn on the height show autofill so I can see what I'm drafting. So I'm going to use the polyline tool and I'm going to start by drafting a half of the diamond. Okay, so it's a double click to start, and then it's a single click for the other points and a double click to finish. Now because I have height show autofill on, that's going to fill in. So I'm going to repeat that for the other side of the diamond. And then I'm going to draw a half square triangle for the corner. And again, double click, single, single, double click to finish. And I'm going to also fill in this triangle in the corner here with a double, single, single, double to finish. So once I have that done, I can use the pick tool and I can drag a box, and notice I started a little bit to the bottom and the right of the center, and so I didn't have to worry about the ruler being in the way. But I selected all of the patches and I'm going to do a clone, flip left to right, and now I'm going to drag these patches into position. And so now I've got a quarter of the block done. Now I'm going to use a pick tool, and notice I'm going to start outside of the block and drag a box over everything, and I'm going to clone and I'm going to rotate that twice, which is going to give me a 90-degree rotation, and then I can move that in position, and I'm going to repeat that for the other remaining 2 quadrants of this block. If you release before you have moved those into position, if I select undo, notice that it will reselect my block again. And so I can move that into position, and I can go to the color tab and use these wonderful fabrics to color the block. And once I've got the block done, I'm going to add that to the project sketchbook. Now I'm going to go to the quilt work table and I'm going to do a new quilt on point. And in the layout tab, I'm just going to keep it at a 3x3. I'm going to fix the size, but I'm going to do that after I figure out what's going to work. So I'm going to go to the design tab, and now I'm going to scroll over until I find my Sunburst block, and I'm going to use the control key or the command if you're on a Mac to put that in the those spaces. Now, after looking at that, I thought about what if I created a second block where I had a half-size starburst in a frame. So let's go ahead and create that. So I'm going to go to the block work table, and I'm going to do a new block, create Serendipity. And I'm going to select the frame, and I'm going to scroll down until I find the striped cornerstone. And I want to select the striped cornerstone option that says striped cornerstone plus 2/5. So essentially that's going to allow me to have 60% of my block in the center and 40% of my block for the outside frame. So on the right, let me scroll to the end and select that last block, the Starburst block, and select Add to Sketchbook and close. Now I'm going to go to the quilt work table, and I'm going to select that block, and with the Control or Command key select the alternate square. And I think that is a very fun design. So I'm going to go to the fabric tools and use swap color. I'm going to make some adjustments. And then I decided, what if I carried that frame into the border? But before I do that, I want to do some resizing. So I mentioned to you that I wanted to use the Starburst Technique from Studio 180 Design. And that is going to require that my LeMoyne Star type blocks need to finish in full inches. So if this bigger block happened to be 10 inches and this one is 60% of that, that would make the smaller one 6 inches. So that would be a good number to work with. So I went back to my Layout tab and adjusted the width of my actual block to 10 inches. And now when I go to print and export, I'm going to just double check by clicking on this block. It gives me the width and height, but that really is the on-point width and height. So I'm going to select rotary cutting and do a preview. And when I zoom in, if you look at piece B, which is essentially the size of that block, notice that I'm cutting at 1.5 by 6.5, which would mean the finished size of my block is 6 inches square. So I know this size is going to be a good one to work with. And I also know that each of these pieces is 1 inch. So if I want to create that for the border, I'm going to select the border tab, and for the first border I'm going to change the style to corner blocks. I'm going to make sure lock size adjustment is set to all, and then I'm going to type in 2 and select the slider bar next to it. So that's going to make it a 2-inch border all the way around. I'm going to add one additional border, which is going to be a long horizontal, and I'm going to make that 3 inches all the way around. Now I am going to go back to the block tab, and I'm going to do a new block, and for this one I'm going to do a pieced easy draw, and I am just going to draw a line down the center. So as long as my snaps are set to an even number, that's going to work, and assuming I have snap to grid on. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to color that, and I'm going to add that to the project sketchbook. Now I'm going to go back to the quilt work table, and I am going to go to the design tab. I'm going to use the block tools, set block. I'm going to take that pat block I just designed, and with the Control or Command key, put that into the border. Then I'm going to use the rotate, and I'm going to rotate this block so that the lighter piece goes into the quilt. And I'm going to go to the fabric tools, and I'm going to go ahead and recolor the rest of this. and then add the quilt to the project sketchbook. Thanks so much for watching. For additional tips and techniques, please subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.onpointquilter.com. I also have the technique sheet and ruler referenced in this video available for purchase in my store.